Hey, welcome back to another episode of Keep Standing. Listen, I cannot tell you enough how much I appreciate you joining us on this journey each and every week. It means a whole lot to me, and I hope it's been a big benefit to you in your journey of leading in whatever field or area that might be, whether it's at home, in the academy, public, corporate space, whatever that square is. Thanks for allowing us to be a part of influence in that journey. If it has helped you, do me a favor and make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. Share this with others. Put it on your socials. Tell them about Keep Standing and what a big benefit it'll be. Well, we're running it back one more time with one of my, let me reiterate that. My favorite person in the whole world. She just happens to be an orthopedic doctor, one of the best. They call her orthodoc. She's from the big city of Denison, Texas. And that huge, that's a big, no, I'm kidding. Let me stop. That's a little comical. But she's a graduate of Texas Tech, University of Texas Medical Branch at Galveston. And she did a residency in orthopedic medicine at Baylor College of Medicine. My girl, my wife, my baby, Dr. Sonya Sloan.
Yes.
Welcome back. This has really been good, man.
It's been good. I like it.
So let's jump right in because a lot of people see you again and they see that you're constantly busy. But that's because there's a lot of high expectation, and a lot of high achieving women can struggle with trying to be everything to everybody. How do you deal with kind of the importance place of stopping, or how to stop performing and start living with conviction?
I think it goes back to a mission, vision, a mission, your purpose in life. And so many times, especially as children, we are almost told what to do, and I think that we're seeing that shift now of influencers, if you will, from the traditional of like, you need to go to college and maybe a master's program, or get a law degree or a medical degree or whatever else. So we were that generation that came out of like, education is everything, and so now it's shifting some. And so as long as people have a passion for something, and that they can have a vision, a direction. The plan is not always important, or the roadmap is not always important, because it's going to change. As you and I both know, that's life. Life is going to change. So I would tell people definitely to have, I think education is important. It gives you a voice. It gives you some oomph, if you will, some power. But at the same time, with the way that the world is changing right now, it is not just about what you know, who you know, where you go, and the importance of your own true identity of what you want. And so it comes back down to passion.
Yeah. You talked a little bit about mission, and ultimately, of course, that's connected to vision and, for your life. But a lot of that was shaped. I said it comically earlier, you're from the big city of Denison. I'm from the bigger city of Sherman.
Whatever.
But small towns help to shape you.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Definitely. How was your childhood, your youth, your adolescent period? How was that a part of shaping who you are today as a woman, as a leader, as a medical professional?
Very, very important. Like, we both have those teachers that were pivotal in our lives that really shape. And I don't think people realize, maybe looking back now, how teachers really do shape. But also the class bully, right? The person that gave you the wherewithal to keep going because you had to go to school. But for me specifically, we came out of the time period where segregation had just ended, and schools were integrated, and small town Sherman-Denison, North Texas was still very racist, right? And so therefore, here you are, a small little kid, you didn't even realize you were black and what that meant. You just went to school because school was exciting and you're going to have friends and, that kind of thing. So each teacher taught me something different, and first grade teacher was probably the biggest, advocate for speaking up for yourself and enjoying life and teaching us the beauty of different seasons and something that stuck with me. My second grade teacher, however, was definitely racist and never would let me sit at the front of the class. I was always on the back row, even though every row got to switch each week. That child would move up, their desk would move up. Mine always remained in the back. I didn't know that was wrong. I didn't understand what she was doing, but it made me work harder. But that was part of where the people pleasing came from, because I really was trying to do more just to make sure she liked me or whatever else. And then it wasn't until I got to seventh or eighth grade when Mrs. Benzo, she's like my godmother, if you will, this white Jewish woman out of nowhere, didn't have kids, came in and basically like, you want to be a doctor, so you got to do certain things. Let's change your schedule. So she put me in algebra, she put me in trig, she put me in calculus, she put me in physics and things that I would never even known to do. And even though my mom was in school, trying to get her nursing's degree, she didn't know what to tell me what to do. So it took pivotal people at different points in my life to actually undergird the mission of what God had for me. And so I don't want people to take it lightly, people speaking into your life, but also don't let everyone speak into your life. I also had a counselor that came in. I'm top 2% of my class and was going to go and look at Duke University, talked about Spelman, was going to go visit. There was a storm or whatever, so never got to go. But at the same time, he says, your parents can't afford that. That's like, at that time, $16,000 was a lot of money. And he was like, you don't need to go there. You can stay in Texas. You could even go to the junior college here and get your primaries or whatever else. And it's like, what if I would have listened to everything he said? I did stay in Texas, but everything happens for a reason, right? But knowing that there are people that are pouring into your child, sometimes you got to make sure it's good and not bad.
Yeah. Well, you kind of allude to, this part where you're learning to come speak up for yourself.
Yeah.
And, we got two incredible daughters.
Yeah.
And we've really tried hard to help them find their voice. And we see it happening. When did you find your voice? Was there a moment where you're like, you know what? I have something to say and I'm going to say it.
Definitely. Texas Tech University, 1992. I just, pledged AKA in 91 spring. So I was the president at the time, Basilis. And there was these parties every weekend. Fraternities and sororities were having. Texas Tech has a huge fraternity and sorority population. And we'd have these pictures afterwards. So you get this little picture and it'd have, AFIA and AKAs or whatever, and then you see the picture. So you go and order these pictures and they'd have negatives. And so I went in one day to order our pictures from the party we went to that day. And I see Pi Kappa Alpha had a party with a sorority and they had a person that was acting like they were a KKK member and lynching someone. And so I was just blown away. Like, it wasn't just that. They had the black face. They had the rope, the noose around the neck, and the person's laying down. I'm like, what is this? So spoke with a couple of black organizations on campus. We wrote our own grievance. We, took it to the Panhellenic. And so they said, yeah, we'll honor this. Let's have a meeting and discuss this. And so a couple of weeks later, they said the meeting's set for Thursday evening, 7 p.m., University Center, show up. Okay. I'm a chemistry major and, chem labs run late. So I'm running, my jeans on, AK sweatshirt with a ponytail and a bow and go, kind of thing. And I just became homecoming queen. So there was still a idea of a look that you're supposed to give or a presence that you're supposed to have. But this was just supposed to be a brief meeting. And so I walk into the student center and there was 1,000 people. Not a room, not a seat empty. And you had the mayor of Lubbock, Texas. You had all of the press were there with cameras, every newspaper as well. And I just was like a deer in headlights of like, what have I done? And so me and the Black Student Association president and the Black Law School president were sitting at the table at the top. And I'm just looking out these lights and like, oh my God, we have opened Pandora's box. Yeah. But understanding the moment was to speak up for what was right and not to sit back and let it happen, because if they were playing like it, at some point they were mimicking real life to me. So over the next year, I will just say my life was turned upside down. My brake line was attempted to be cut, tires slashed. I was calls threatening my life. And I remember one day my mom's secretary calls and says, pick up your parents at the airport, American Airlines, whatever flight and stuff. I'm like, why? Why are they here? Something about in the Dallas Morning News, Miles fights the KKK. And I'm like, what? So it was out there, you know. My name was said by Bill Cosby on the Arsenio Hall show when he was talking about, you know, how these fraternities were getting out of hand and who this girl, Miles, fighting the KKK in Lubbock, Texas, like, who does that? So it was on a national level now of just finally speaking up and saying things, you know, something that brought attention to it. And in doing so, it was hard, it was lonely, but it was right. And it taught me a lesson in life not to back down to the bullies, which helped me when I went into orthopedic surgery.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what attracted me to you. You know, I
Tell them, baby, tell them about it.
I mean, I knew you were fine, but but when I saw in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and I'll never forget where I was in front of the federal building in Atlanta, and I opened up the paper and read Miles fights KKK, and they talk about Connie Chung interviewing you, and I'm like, oh my God, what attracted me was your willingness to stand and your fight. I said, oh man, I never saw that side of her growing up as a kid. And I was attracted. So I'm glad God aligned those things like that.
Amen.
But so, yeah. And you have, you know, you become an incredible inspiration to so many. Let's talk about what all of us deal with. And sometimes getting in those places, in those circles, there's, you know, you got all these credentials. Everybody knows you. They know Dr. Sonya Sloan. But there's always that kind of feeling like, am I an imposter? What's this? How do you overcome? Because somebody's saying, man, I've always feel like I don't belong or I shouldn't be here. But you do well with that.
I think it's a real feeling. I think we have accepted the term imposter syndrome when you should not. The fact is, you deserve to be in that room just like anybody and everybody else. Barack Obama said, you know, one of the things, and this is going around on social media now, is like, he goes, don't be alarmed or don't be thrown off when you get into the rooms and at the table with these big people, because they put their pants on one leg at a time, just like you. And most of them, it's not about actually their credentials, it's about who they knew to get there, you know? And so I took that to heart. Now, did it stop the feelings of wanting to, like, I'm not supposed to be here or whatever else? But truth be told, we worked harder than most of the people in those rooms. We've done more than most of the people in that room. And so not to squelch yourself or what do they say, take up space. You know, take up space because you deserve to be there. You should be there. And if they don't want you there, that's even more reason to be there. So the imposter syndrome, I think, is a nomenclature that we've accepted, but we should not, because you deserve to be there.
Yeah. You know, there's this season in life where, you know, you're able to say, okay, do I need to shift here? Do I need to follow something that I've been really thinking about? And you kind of did that at one point. You found something that you became incredibly passionate about, and now to see where it is, and I'm referring to Sloan STEM. Tell us a little bit about what the genesis of Sloan STEM, and what Sloan STEM is.
So Sloan STEM is our nonprofit that we started in 2017. I was working on the book, and the idea of, like, you know, why did I do the book? It was because no one had helped me get to where I was. And so the idea was like, so how do I help somebody else? If not just a medical student, how do I help us? How do I help the people, the little people that look like us, get ahead? So when they get to my stage in life, they're already, you know, 10 steps ahead. So therefore, in the end, they can financially be in a field that is six figures or plus, and be able to sustain themselves, their community, the Black community, you know, the Black and brown communities. So it was a bigger picture of not just the rules of medicine, but really, how do I create the avenue and the template that will guarantee them success, you know, and professionally and financially. And so I, you know, talked with one of our deacons, Elvin Price, and he's, you know, a previous principal and has been in the Aldine School District and Humboldt School District, and he knows the Houston school districts, and he says, well, let's just go and look at a few. And so we went. He drugged me all over Houston. Listen, in like 2 or 3 weeks, he drugged me all over Houston to different programs. I got to meet so many people and see people that were doing it, but they were doing the STEM program at an elementary level. It was just one class, or they were doing a summer school program, but it was, just for a couple of days or whatever else. And the minorities got it, but they didn't get the great equipment or, that kind of thing. So we talked about it and we decided, let's just try this at the church. And so faith-based health initiatives, was one thing, but we really didn't do a faith-based educational initiative. And so that's where it started. And so when I came to talk to you, as you usually do, I'm like, whatever you want, baby. If you want to do it, let's make it happen. I don't understand, but let's go for it. And so it's like science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM. And so people were saying STEAM at the time. I'm like, I'm a diehard chemistry major, medicine person. STEM has to be over here. Arts is over here. Right brain, left brain. So therefore it's STEM plus arts, because we still want to enhance it. It doesn't get crushed by the STEM. And so we did. We set out and started out in 2018, our first year. We did over 150 kids at the Loop Church, and it was phenomenal. And so the next year it just grew, and then it became, how can we undergird this? And we had to now have a fundraising event, the golf tournament. It became, how do you renew technology, because computers become old, and so you had to replace that, putting people on our board that could help us with the monies and stuff like that. And to this date, we've never been in the red. We've always had a surplus. We've always had a huge volume of volunteers because people see the vision. People see the mission. They understand how important it is. And with today's current political climate, with the destruction of DEI, affirmative action is gone, and you have blatant leadership in this country saying, we do not want you at the table. Well, hell, let us just create our own table. We're going to build our own.
You talk about this with such passion. It shows, because God gave you a vision for it. And I told you, I don't necessarily see it, but that's the good sign, because it's what God wanted you to help fulfill. And man, have you done it. Changing a lot of lives. If you want a STEM summer camp for your kids, you got to go to Sloan STEM and try something. So listen, some people don't know, we knew each other growing up as kids.
You gonna tell my business?
No, I wouldn't do that. Not on this episode.
Not this episode.
But we were kids, and that's a whole nother story about growing up and me carrying your picture more. But anyways, no, not really. But when we started dating, it was when you were med school, me in the seminary, and I'll never forget that. We were so gung-ho in love. I took a class on faith and medicine because I wanted to see how this thing connects. And I remember, God's put us together, and we're going to figure this thing out together. We're going to do something big in the world. We're going to change the world, faith and medicine. So we're on this journey to figure this thing out. What has been your vantage point of what is that connection between faith and medicine? You're a woman of faith, and you're a medical doctor, but there's other sides to this. What has it meant to you, this discovery?
This is it steers everything, right? So our faith is who we are. It's our spirituality. It's our essence, is what I call it. What we believe, what we can't see, but we know it drives us. It connects us. We believe in that higher power of things are going to work out for us because we have favor, those kind of things. So for me, watching it overflow in different things, not just into medicine, but what people don't realize is spirituality controls people's health. So to me, it was a no-brainer. They connect. People that are spiritual tend to do better in surgery and outcomes and whatever the medical morbidity they may have. But also our spiritual drive to make a difference in the world. For me and you both, mine is medicine. Yours may be more social justice. But that impact of it connects everything. People are by nature spiritual. That's just who we are, our essence of who we are. So you can relate to anybody in any place at any time. We built a medical clinic in Haiti, specifically because, we saw a need, but we connected the spirituality, the church, to the medical side. And so for us, that was faith and medicine working hand in hand. Next, I work on the Indian reservation, Navajo Nation. And so their spiritual beliefs are nothing like Christianity, and not Baptists, if you will. And so therefore understanding people's spirituality, who they are, where they are, and respecting that has garnered more insight of being open to that. And I serve on a board of the Institute of Spirituality and Health, and it really connects the dots of multiple faiths, to say we're all important. We all have the same drive with all the same direction, but for each of us to speak up and say, we can do this together and have a better cause, a better, outcome. I think is what life is all about.
Yeah. Do you pray with your patients?
I do. And what I love is when they ask me to pray.
Yeah.
So is that something on me that they can see, that they're not afraid? Sometimes my nurses says, she's very spiritual, whatever that they'll say that, but I love that. There's some patients I'll pray over them in the OR once they're asleep, because there's things out of your control that you need to put some word on sometimes. Yeah, definitely.
You be in there throwing oil and stuff in the name of Jesus. Yeah, casting stuff out.
They laugh because like I said, is everybody praying? Are y'all praying? Because this got hard. This case just got hard, and it'll set a tone of people being respectful of God, but also understanding I may play a lot, or in the operating room we may dance, we have our music and whatever else, but when it comes down to this person being healed or this procedure going well, I'm very serious. To
do what you do, you got to walk with confidence. You got to walk with authority. And when we see that white coat, man, in any hospital, or if it's in a coffee shop, you're like, okay. But what about for you as a black woman walking into a room and you don't have on your white coat, and they ask the question, when is the doctor coming?
All the time. Being misunderstood as even the lab technician, the nurse assistant, I've been called it all, The best case was when I was working at the VA during my training, and I walked in, I didn't have the white coat on. No, I did have the white coat on. And he's like, can you get the bedpan for me? And I was like, okay, here I am to get this guy signed up for surgery. And so I take my white coat off and put it on the little hanger over here, and I go get the bedpan and help him roll over and put it under him. And as he happens to do what he needs to do, as only whatever, helped him take it back out. And then by then the nurse walks in and she's like, Dr. Sloan, what are you doing? And then she's like, I was helping him, do what he had to do. She's like, the doctor doesn't do that, but after that I asked him, could he sign, I need to amputate his leg. And he said, any doctor that would help me get on a bedpan, I'm okay with them to take my leg off. And he's like, that meant more to him than what the white coat represented, that I was willing to help him in a time of need. So you have to take it with a grain of salt. It's an accomplishment is what the white coat represents for us, especially as black doctors. But it's not everything, because the whole point is you're here to help somebody.
One thing I've always heard is you have great bedside manner. And that's what we all want from our doctor, to know how to treat us as human beings, especially when black folk have our, concerns, that's historically rooted in challenges we face. Have you ever walked into a room and somebody refused care from you because you were a black woman?
And he was a black man. The VA hospital, again, you got to remember, my dad's a vet, but the mentality of veterans are different. And depending on what year there were a few that I got to work on that were actually World War II. Most of them are gone now. But you had Korean, you had Vietnam, you had Desert Storm, you had whatever. So different generations, different ages. He was a Korean War guy. And walked in, he had what we considered a sore or a wound on his backside. And I was doing general surgery, and walked in, I was going to change the dressing, and was consenting him for surgery to wash it out. And he says, no disrespect, but I want a white doctor. And I was floored. I mean, I walked out of the room in tears of just like, what did I do wrong? And how is this black man not going to accept me? The one person I knew would be proud to see me and accept me for who I am and what I was going to do for him, refused me.
Wow.
So it was that moment where you have to understand You're not for everybody,
Yeah.
you know, and be okay with that. And then I had to respect his wishes because he's the patient and it's his body. And so therefore, if he didn't trust me, then, you know, albeit, let me get you somebody else. And I was okay with that after a while to you know, flush that out, because I would have hated something to gone wrong and then him doubt even more. But I had to respect the generation he grew up in, where white doctors were the doctors, and that there weren't really many black doctors, and he probably hadn't seen any, so he'd never learned to trust one.
And you were probably the best one for him.
I would have taken great care of him.
Yeah. It reminds me of that episode on Sanford Son where, you know, he wanted a white dentist because he thought a black dentist couldn't do it, you know. And he needed a specialist. Come to find out, it was
The black
doctor.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You're in this season of your life. Again, I know how incredible you are. At this period, what do you most want to do? Is there something blaring at you like this is the season?
Well, this is the legacy living season for you and I both. It is the pay it forward. It is the rule number 34 in the book. And you remember the movie Pay It Forward was with Kevin Spacey.
Yeah.
And he was the teacher in this you know, middle school class, and the little boy came in, and their project was basically, how do you create something that is going to be ongoing, perpetual, right? And so his idea was pay it forward. If I do a nice gesture for someone, maybe that will make them do a nice gesture for someone else. And after that movie was released, it revolutionized this whole pay it forward movement in the world. It was a global phenomenon. And so for me, it was, if I do something nice, if it's with a patient, if it's somebody in our church, if it's, you know, a kid that I'm going to mentor, if it's a book that I'm writing because I'm telling you, whatever, that's the legacy that I'm living, because my touch will hopefully be exponentially touching others.
Yeah. Yeah. We are officially Unc and Auntie. That's the season we're in. Yes, we are. We're
okay with that.
Well, listen, when people look back at your work and they see the impact, what do you hope that they'll say you stood for?
I think they will. What I hope that they will see is, you know, spiritual, surgical, sacrificial, but more than anything else, she was passionate about people, loving people hard. I love people hard. Loyalist to a fault sometimes, but yeah.
Well, you're changing the world, Sonya Sloan, and thank you for changing mine. Oh. Listen, I'm so grateful for you. But before we go, you wrote a book again, Rule of Medicine. Tell us again a little bit about it, where we can get it.
The Rules of Medicine, a medical professional's guide to success. It's basically short stories about things that people talk about but don't really discuss. And so you need to know these things to get through medical school, residency, nursing school, PA. It's on my website, SonyaSloanMD.com, Amazon, Goodreads. It's several sites, but you can find it at therulesofmedicine.com as well. Or you can go to my social media, and I am Sonya Sloan on Facebook and Sonya Sloan MD on all other platforms. That's Instagram, TikTok, Substack. What else? Facebook.
You're not on X, you said.
I'm not on X, but I am on Blue Sky. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, go check her out. Make sure you follow her. All right. I really enjoyed this. I really have. You know, I was a little kind of all right.
You thought I was going to say some things and tell some business. No.
Yeah, you know, you could go hard in the paint.
I was good. I was
are
very demure.
It's the other side people don't know about. But I hope you'll come back and we'll run it back.
Okay.
This is probably going to be one people going to say, nah, man, y'all need to do it again.
Do it again.
We will.
Okay.
We will.
Thank you, baby.
Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you for joining us, being part of this conversation. Don't forget to share this with others. Tell them about what's happening here and keep standing. So grateful for you. Until next time, keep standing.